video you've been waiting for. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. So today I am here at Waterstones on Gower Street. Sadly, I'm not on the Bartlett anymore, but I'm happy to be here and film this video for you guys. So as you've seen from the title down below, today I'm going to do a full review and reflection of my time at architecture school, which is the Bartlett School of Architecture at UCL. I'm going to leave some timestamps in the description box below, just in case you want to skip to a certain part, so let's go. I have a script here, so in case my eyes go that way, you know why, because there's a script. I typed a whole script for this. There's like 3,000 words, so hopefully I get everything in close in this. So for some context, I study at the Bartlett for 3 years as an undergraduate degree. So it is a Bachelor of Science in Architecture, and I studied from 2019 to 2020, and I just graduated a few months ago, obviously. So year one, the most exciting year of all time. In year one, there was a huge emphasis on drawing and model making. We were allocated randomly to different tutor groups at the time, so your experience heavily depended on whichever tutor group you were in. So we essentially had like 5 modules, which would be design, history, structures, and environmental. Our normal weekly schedules would be 2 tutorials per week, some type of structural or environmental lecture once a week, a history lecture or seminar once a week. Structures and environmental stuff was marked based on a multiple choice exam that we had at the end of the first term, and then a coursework accompanying each of the modules. This will basically be the only exam you do for the entire course of architecture, only in your year one, and you'll never have to touch a single exam ever anymore in your next few years. History was writing an essay about a certain topic. For design, we had 4 design projects over the course of 1 year, which is crazy to think about because we only had 1 year and we did 4 projects. So I'm going to be heavily focusing this review on the design projects because it is kind of the most major part of the architectural education. So our first project was an object transformation project where we had to pick an object and transform it in some weird architectural spatial way. If you don't understand what I'm saying, that's totally cool because I don't know what I'm saying either. And I didn't get it when I first received the brief as well. I will give you some examples. So I chose the croissant, and I was interested in the idea of having air pockets within the croissant in the bread. So in order to capture this, I did some casting to cast the space inside of the croissant, and my final transformation was basically a fabric cast with fabric cloths, and obviously plaster inside. So for some other examples, someone did an exploded camera or something to wear. This was actually one of the toughest times I had at the Bartlett. I remember crying in my first tutorial because it was so tough when my tutor told me to do all this work in one single tutorial, especially also with casting, which I had 0 experience with. But in all honesty, my tutor is very nice to me, and I really appreciated all his help. It was just that the pressures of doing this design project to do very well, combined with the pressures of being an international student, being overseas, away from home, the homesickness, and also just cooking, cleaning, being alone, all these things got to me and it was very hard. I will also be making a video about this, kind of the life lessons I learned in university, so subscribe and stay tuned if you're interested in that. Our second project was a group installation project. So we had to work in our tutor groups assigned to us in groups of around 13 to 16 people and build something completely from scratch, which was insane to think about. This also depended on our site, which was Walmer's Yard. I'll show you a map here, located in London. Also, side note, I will put all the links to my projects in the description box below in case you want to check them out, either on the Bartlett Summer Show website or on my personal portfolio website as well. So every group's installation had to be on the same site, except for the fact that they're kind of dotted around the different areas and rooms of Walmer's Yard. So there could be like bedrooms, the courtyard, the balcony, and our group basically got the ramp, which is the entrance, you know, where the car goes down off a certain ramp. I have some photos here. And we also had to derive our installation based on the stories of metamorphosis. And our group got Phaethon, which is a story of Zeus's son, who had too much of a big ego and just decided that he was going to burn the whole earth because to ride his father's carriage. So that was the story we got for our installation. Anyways, it was a lot of work, obviously. There were also a lot of like relationship dynamic problems in our group, as you can tell from any group project you work on in university. It was just a wild ride, to be honest. Obviously, there was a lot of people who basically did all the work and some people who didn't even know what the project was about. So, you know, just normal, trivial, everyday group project problems. And I also describe our group dynamic as a solar system, so you have someone in the middle of the solar system that knows everything that's happening. And there's also actually this one guy that was basically Pluto, so he was like on a whole different trajectory, which was a really funny story to talk about. And it's just quite funny now thinking back the time, even though it was really stressful back then. But I'm glad we got the entire project finished. The assembling process happened in one day. Here are some photos and footage. We used BMate also, which is the workshop located in the Bartlett at the basement level, which is really cool because obviously we did everything from scratch. We got some help from the people working in the Bartlett. Sadly, in the years following after that, because of COVID and also the nature of my project, I didn't get to use the workshop as much, but it was really nice to do that with everyone there. So our third project was based on a field trip to Rome in first. And I picked Villa d'Este, which is a fountain place that I was really interested in based on the water systems in place, because at the time there was no electricity, but the fountains were able to shoot up to like a very impressive height, which is crazy to think about since there was no electricity. So my project was essentially about fossilizing water, like marking where the water went throughout the villa. I also have to mention that at this point we changed our tutor groups actually, so they kind of like rearranged the whole people group within the cohort and they just reorganized people. So I had 2 new tutors. So in some tutor groups there was 1 tutor and some there were 2, where I meet 1 person on Tuesday and 1 on Friday. So sometimes like if you have 2 tutors, they might have disagreements with each other based on like how you're working on Tuesday and how you're working on Friday. And sometimes I preferred one over the other, which happens if you're in a tutor group with 2 tutors, but somehow you just get through it and then the project went well in the end. Then there was the final project, the 4th project, which is the big project, which is also called the building project, that people kind of look forward to. People were talking about this throughout the year, like, oh, we're going to do the building project at the end. So you were given a site for a year, and for us, we got the site of Dalston in London, where we essentially had to go to the site a lot to do a lot of site surveying, measuring the dimensions of our site, talking to the community there to find out what the site and the community really needed. I remember just waking up super early one morning, going to the site because we got the site of Ridley Road Market, and just going there around like before 6 a.m. and just seeing the stall owners like set up their stalls, which is so interesting. And I went there with my friends and everything. It was just a really memorable experience for me. So I got to talk to a lot of the locals and learn about the community and also just about gentrification in the site, which is so cool. So in this project, we worked a lot with, hand drawing, model making, because we had to make some site models to scale. But sadly, this was also the time when COVID hit. So I had to do a lot of the work back at home in Hong Kong, which made it very, very tough because obviously all of our tutorials had to be remote through Zoom. But I was glad that my tutors were very helpful and got me through it. In the end though, for first year, everything became a capstone assessment. So everything was only either pass or fail. I felt a bit disappointed because of all the hard work and effort I put into my previous projects. And this also meant that a lot of my efforts just meant nothing in the end. But first year overall was a really good experience for me and really made me step out of my comfort zone a lot and talk to people of different interests in the architecture realm. Also just to learn about what architecture could really be and how the Bartlett approach it. And it's not just about like, building boring buildings, construction and all those things. And it's about like how you speculate it and also jumping out of my comfort zone to talk to locals, what a community really needed. Working on like hand drawings and portfolio making, which was all on A1 sheets, which is crazy to think about since now it's all digital. But back then we had to like make our portfolios in A1 sheets and they were so heavy to carry it in a portfolio. We did crits as well, which was a bit overwhelming at times, but I really enjoyed the experience because you see how people comment on different people's projects and stuff. So that was my first experience. So new location, thought it'd be nice to switch things up a bit. So before I go into second and third year, I thought it'd be really important to mention the unit system and how it works. So for second and third years, there's this thing called the unit system. The unit system is basically where people are separated into different units, which you can basically think of as tutor groups. So each unit has its own themes that it will focus on for the year and the methodology it focuses on. For example, you can think of, it can be either drawing, model making, filmmaking, animation, etc., or 3D modeling. You can find these out usually through their Instagrams, their websites, or through their briefs, which they will release at the beginning of each year. When I was at the Bartlett, the school followed a unit interview system at the beginning of every year, where you put together a portfolio of what you did in the previous years and then showcase them to the unit tutors that you're interviewing with. So on the first day, you would interview with the unit which was your first choice, and then they present your portfolio, ask them any questions you have, also for them to ask you any questions that they have and to see if they're a good fit for you. And then at the end of the day, they'll give you a response as to whether they accept you or not. If you did, then congratulations, you got into your first choice of your unit selection. And if not, then this process would repeat itself. So for the second day, you would have to go to your second choice and do another round of interviews. Although note that this time for your second choice, it will only be the units that are not fully filled up from the first day. So for example, if some units are particularly popular a certain year, they might be filled up already. So say even if your second choice was one of those, you might not be able to go back into that because it's already filled up from the first day. So you have to pick from the ones that are left behind. And then this process continues for like 3 days. So if you get it, you get it. And if not, you pick your third choice, and it continues until all the units are filled up with students. So I was informed that this year the application process is a bit different because students complained that the interview process was too stressful for them. So this year instead it became an allocation system where each student goes through obviously all the briefs of each unit and then select 5 based on preference. And then the module coordinators would allocate the students to the different units based on your grades. I'm not sure. But to me, it doesn't seem that sophisticated for me because I feel like now no one really has a chance of fighting for the unit that they really want to work for, especially in terms of methodology, if you want to work a certain way. But I don't know how the success is this year, and this is just definitely my opinion, so don't quote me on this. Year 2. Now, moving on to my second year. Year 2 is completely online, thanks to COVID. So in one single unit, there will be both year 2s and year 3s together. I guess the idea is that the year 2s can learn from the year 3s, and it's more of a cohesive vibe. So my second year unit doesn't exist anymore because the tutors left the school, but I had 2 projects over the year, which focuses on the theme of veganism and animal agriculture. So if you're interested in the projects I did, you can watch the videos here. So in second year, we now have 4 modules: design project, design technology, history, and this module called P, which stands for practice, enterprise, and ethics. And essentially we had to listen to lectures about people who run their own firm, and we needed to produce a coursework where we created this imaginary company with an imaginary brief. I didn't really like this module as much because I feel like up until this point, I still don't really know how a company works and what the company structures are. And we also had to calculate costs and overheads and all those things and create these like big cost tables, which we had no idea what we were doing. And then get marked by people who were in the field for 20 years while we had 0 experience. But it was really nice to hear about people running their firms and stuff, and also what they learned along the way, which is always very interesting. So with design projects this year, the difference now is that we have 1 tutorial per week instead of 2 tutorials per week. And I also get to see both my tutors at the same time, which is very good because both of them gets to put in opinions onto your project at the same time and also talk to each other and bounce ideas off of each other. The submissions now for second year was also completely digital, which I am happy about because I don't have to make A1 portfolios, but it was also sad because obviously everything is remote, so it was very difficult for each unit to have a unit and studio culture, and it was just hard to meet new people. Obviously I stuck a lot to my old friends, thankfully, because of my first year, but it was just hard to meet new people. However, the good thing was that I was able to sit into other people's tutorials to learn more, because in first year, if your tutorials were in person, you're not allowed to sit into other people's tutorials, but since everything is on Zoom for the whole day, I can just sit into people's tutorials and learn a lot more. I also need to mention that I really appreciated my second year tutors because they were just like so supportive of my ideas and hand drawing, and also just really emotionally and mentally supporting me that year because I struggled a lot with mental health with COVID that year as well. So for this new module of design technology, it was in conjunction with our final design project, the building project, which you can watch in the video down below. So we had to basically search up where materials came from, what the site looks like, what the construction method is. We also have to do these technical detail things in Rhino, and I rendered them in V-Ray, which seems very professional when you look at the renders, but I have to tell you, I really have no idea what I was doing at the time. My design tutor just told me kind of like what to do, and I followed his advice. I didn't find design tech very helpful. I didn't find the module particularly helpful because I felt like I was just ticking boxes, but this significantly changed in third year, which I'll talk about later. So following my second year, my experience really inspired me to focus on the themes of mental health for my third year project. I'm sure some of you have watched my blogs for the third year since I started documenting my journey and saw my experience doing my design project and other things. So this is just kind of like a verbal overview of what I went through. Again, for my third year, we basically had 3 modules: design project, design technology, and history. So for history this year, we get put into seminar groups that you can choose based on the themes that each seminar group is focusing on, and you had 1 seminar each week. And you're basically free to write about any type of topic you would like to do, as long as it's like loosely related to the themes of that seminar group. So I was really lucky to be able to write about colonial architecture in Hong Kong, as that's where I'm from, and explore themes about architecture, colonialism, and social movements and social issues. And it is a 5,000 word essay that I completed over the Christmas holidays. And it's really cool because I got to learn a lot about my hometown and go into archives, British Library, look at maps, and it was just really cool. Again, for the design module, I had one tutorial per week, and this time because the COVID situation is getting better, I was allowed to use the studio space. As you saw in my vlogs, I was there every single day, 6 days a week. I was also really grateful for my tutors for my third year, as they were really supportive of my ideas, and also just allowed me to do fully hand drawings for the entire year and push my methodology and themes I'm passionate about. I also wanted to mention that as a third year, you're theoretically allowed to use any type of medium that you would like to use, no matter which unit you're in, what their design methodology is known for. As the people in my unit use a range of different mediums, from painting to Photoshop, digital modeling, and different softwares, and obviously I did hand drawing. So again, if you're interested in the projects I did, you can watch the videos here and the description box below. For design tech in my third year, we were given a lot more support than we did compared to second year, which made it a lot more enjoyable. And obviously I significantly enjoyed my experience with my tutor, with my tech for my final year. I think this is because the tech tutor worked closely to the design tutors, and they paid a lot more attention to the themes of our project and what we were focusing on. We also had tech seminars with the module coordinators, and we also had to take a step further with our tech by doing some experiments. So obviously for those who watch my vlogs, I grew saplings to test ways of manipulating them, and some of my friends did some experiments on testing materials like growing fungi or mold or bacteria, and my friend did a one-to-one kiln test. Like, he fired some columns in the kilns, which is really cool. Shout out to Chris. And that was basically my experience in the third year. So now this is the juicy part. So I'm sure at least some of you clicked this video because you want to know about the experience and I guess some of the controversy surrounding the Bartlett in the past year. So I know there's been some controversy surrounding the Bartlett in regards to mental health because of the Howlett-Brown report that was released this year, 2020 in June, about the struggles faced by the students at the Bartlett and how some staff was engaging in inappropriate behavior. First of all, I want to say that I'm actually so saddened, just really sad and disappointed looking at the surveys and just the contents of the report where people feel like their mental health has worsened as a result of studying at the Bartlett, and also just learning about the harassment story and crazy stories between the tutors and the students. Of course, I am in no way invalidating anyone's negative experience at the Bartlett. That has been really negative because obviously I've had my fair share of negative experiences, as I have cried in multiple tutorials before in the past. And I also hear some bad stories from my friend's side about the comments that their tutors make in tutorials, but I also wanted to point out about the fact that this is data collected from people spanning through a course of 30 years, which may not fully reflect how the Bartlett is truly at the present moment. Also, these may be very specific tutors that they're talking about and not every single tutor that works at the Bartlett. For example, my tutors that I've had my experience with at the Bartlett. This also kind of started a witch hunt for every single tutor, which included my final year tutors, which has been the most supportive people I've met at my time at the school, especially with these Instagram posts that are just kind of bad-mouthing and witch hunting every single person that worked at the Bartlett, which I don't see to be very effective in dealing with and raising awareness about these issues. And my question really is, what's the point of targeting all these tutors? Is it to get them all kicked out from the school? And what is the ultimate goal? Anyways, I also need to acknowledge the fact that no one is going to read the report if every single account or there's going to be accounts about positive experiences at the school. Therefore, I really sympathize with the fact that the Bartlett needs to take drastic measures and changes this year. I want to reiterate the fact that I think mental health is just so important, especially with the struggles I faced in the past, which hence the themes of my final project, which I think is so important to address in culture of architecture, which is known for being really go, hustle culture. But I do also believe that certain amounts of pressure is essential to keep you moving forward, and you will face this in architecture school and in the workplace, and actually not even just bound to architecture, in every single life experience that you will face. And there's no denying it and no shying away or hiding from any of these experiences. And I also think this is what makes the experience of being at university and school something that is really life-changing and you'll remember for the rest of your life. Therefore, my opinion stands in the place that I don't want to invalidate anyone's experience of having a really negative experience at the Bartlett, but it's also important to note the positive experiences that people have had at the school in the present moment. While changes should be made, it's also important to remember that pressure is beneficial to a certain extent. I think everyone just has a very different experience at the school. So for those who has been watching my vlog, some of my friends said I had a very my experience at the Bartlett was an anomaly because I was just managing my time well, I suppose. Not everyone manages their time well. I had a really good relationship with my tutors, which might not have been everyone else's experience. So I just want to reiterate that it's really what you make of it and how you make your experience the most you've had at school. So I wrote a poll on Instagram asking if you guys have any questions, and I will answer to some of them. So how were the crits, and was it really harsh? How did you learn to cope? So I feel like the crits, overall my experience with them were okay. I don't know if it's just like the work I produce. I have seen people who've had really terrible crits, I would say, because some of the critics might be really harsh. But over the years, I think the Bartlett tried to make it less stressful for people. They were like, the amount of language that the type of language the tutor uses has to be like good and actually constructive and not just like insulting the student for no reason. I don't think I've had a really harsh experience with crits. I think it was more just about the experience of seeing other people's work that was really interesting, because it was like the one time in the day that you don't really have to work and then you can just listen to people talking about their work and learn a lot about other people's stuff. So I don't think it was that bad. I think also with the time management thing, I just do my work before, so it's a lot less scrambling. But I will say there's a culture of people working last minute before crits, you know, like pulling all-nighters and stuff, and then putting their stuff the first thing in the morning and kind of dying. But crits were okay, for me at least. Whether I had to use B-Made to get a first. I think getting a first is really just dependent on your work quality. It's not really whatever medium you use, because I use fully hand drawing and I got a first class, which I'm very grateful for, and thank you to my tutors for. But you don't really need to use the B-Made. I think some units really support the use of B-Made, the workshop, which sometimes I wish I used more of, because to this day I still don't know how to use a 3D printer, which is quite sad. But I'm sure I can learn it if I wanted to. Try your hand at B-Made. You don't need it to get a first. If people actually got kicked out for failing modules twice. I think this is a rule in all UK universities, right? Like if you fail a year, you can redo it again. And if you fail it again, I think you get kicked out. But I'm not sure. I think it's the UCL policy, so don't quote me on this. What do you think of the engineering and architectural design course? So sadly, I don't think I mentioned this in my video, but I think when you're in the course of architecture, you don't really get to mingle with people from other courses. I think we kind of did in first year. When we did this module called Making Cities, essentially we had to make a film about a specific city, which we did a group project with different people of different courses within the Bartlett. But apart from that module, we actually never got to talk to people of different modules. The building's kind of like only reserved for architecture people, so sadly we don't have that. I wish they kind of changed that so you get to talk to people of different courses more, but I'm sorry that I don't have an opinion on this. So I think you have to reach out to people who actually do those courses. Should I learn how to use design apps like Adobe in advance? I think if you have time on your hands over summer, you could try to learn them. I mean, I think you'll definitely use Photoshop. The other ones, I'm not too sure about. First year is very hands-on. You don't really use that much digital stuff. In fact, I think they try to not let you use digital stuff. But for second year, it really depends on the unit you get in. Like some units use Rhino, some units use Moto, you can use SketchUp, but I wouldn't fully say like you have to learn it just because you don't even know which unit you're gonna get in. But if you have time, you want to learn some, like do it for fun, because I think learning Mosh software will only be beneficial in the end. It doesn't really matter. You can pick some that you're interested in, and you can always, once you learn it, you can always integrate it into your projects. I mean, the tutors are not going to go against that. So learn it if you want, but it's not a must. Studio culture at the Bartlett. So I didn't have much of a studio culture in second year, obviously, because of COVID. But in first year, I would say studio culture is pretty good because everyone was in the studio all the time. We were all working in group projects, so you got to see a lot of people. And because I think the year cohort was pretty small, it was only around 100 people, so you kind of know everyone in the year. In third year though, when I was back in school, I think I had a pretty good unit culture, to be honest, because everyone in my unit was really nice, and then I got along with all of them. We hosted dinner parties and Christmas parties. It was really nice. I do think you have to make more of an effort to be in studio though, because I was in studio almost every single day. Whereas if you're working more digitally, you could work remote and work from home and not come to studio. It's not a must. I think first year it's more required for you to come in, but if you, in your second and third year, you can choose not to come in. But I would say the downside of that is that you don't really get to meet as much people or build a better relationship with people, so it's dependent on you. But I would say studio culture is pretty good, especially if you walk around and then if you're doing something really cool, some people come up to you and be like, hey, what are you doing? That looks really cool. And then you have a conversation. And I think just, going into elevators, walking up the stairs, you see some people that you're like, hey, how's your project going? How's tutorial? Are your tutors nice? And you talk about different things and you get the inner gossip about different tutor groups, different units, and it's really chill, it's really nice. What do you wish you could change about the uni experience? So I would say, I don't know what I would change. I'm the type of person that thinks there's no regrets, because I think everything happens for a reason and it works out for the best. So actually, I don't think there's anything I would change about the uni experience. I would slightly argue maybe COVID. I wish I could have met my second year tutors in person because they were so nice to me. But at the same time, if it wasn't for COVID, I don't think maybe I wouldn't have had such a close relationship to them. So I don't know what I would change about the experience. I think everything worked out very well. Maybe just meeting more friends in second year, but that also was why my podcast and the YouTube channel was born. So everything worked out. I maybe wouldn't change a thing. I loved it. Time management and prioritizing, because I knew that. I would probably make a video about this at some point, Jim. About time management and prioritizing, because I realize this is one of the things people ask me a lot, because I never pulled an all-nighter at school. I have an old video about this, but probably I'll make an updated one, because I think time management and prioritizing is actually so important. One of the key life skills you need to learn in order to thrive, have a healthy life in university, which I'm all about. So yeah. What did you most enjoy? I think the thing I most enjoyed was really just talking to people and getting to know people, especially my tutors, my unit mates, and getting to know myself also as a person. Getting to do projects that I really enjoyed, and just, discovering who you are as a person and discovering life along this journey in architecture school, and it's just something I'm really grateful for. Sasha asks, hustle culture. I think there's definitely there is definitely a hustle culture at Bartlett, because it's always like the harder you work, the more work you're going to produce, which actually I'm really grateful that my tutors in third year kind of like go against this notion of like you just have to hustle really hard. I don't agree with it, because sometimes I try to take breaks when I can, when I know I can't work, which I think I did more towards the end. But you definitely don't need to hustle really hard. It's about finding balance, right? Like you do have to work really hard, because you have to produce a significant amount of work for each week to show at your tutorials. But I would definitely say like not working super hard to the point that you don't get sleep and you neglect your health, because I just think health is the most important thing. Speaking of health, I'm actually planning to run some well-being workshops at the Bartlett Health. Workload depends on you and your tutor. Your tutor can only tell you so much about how much work to do, but it's always up to you as to how much work you want to do for yourself. So each person is different. Zoe asks, does the architecture department provide a lot of networking/career opportunities? Actually, maybe this is one thing I would change, to be honest. Now that you mentioned, this is the one thing I would change. It's about the help of careers, because I didn't feel like I received any career help at the end of my career. Hence, my previous videos of me just struggling so much with finding work. My tutors were very helpful, but we had a careers fair, but it was just talking to different companies. It's not like you really get a chance to interview with them and stuff. And our school just doesn't really like prepare you for what's to come after graduation, like submitting CVs, making portfolios, and cover letters. We don't really get any of those help. I think UCL might have helped. Maybe I just didn't reach out to help, but I feel like as a school for Bartlett and architecture field, they didn't really help me that much, and I wish they would provide us with more help. So we also asked, are there many financial aids, bursaries, scholarships for international students? I'm not sure about this. I think I wanted to apply for one, but sadly I couldn't find anything that matched with my situation. But I have heard that some international students getting financial aid to be at the Bartlett. So definitely search up UCL's website for more details, or you can send emails. But I'm not too sure about that one. And those were the questions. So I hope they were helpful. And yeah. I want to talk about the small project that I'm focusing on at the moment. So if you watch some of my New York vlogs, I wanted to do like this small project that I am quite passionate about, which is about health, because I think health is the most important thing you have in life. And actually for my third year at Bartlett, throughout my vlogs, I don't know if you guys felt it, but I was very adamant about like maintaining my mental health and physical health. I go to the gym all the time and meal prep healthy foods, and I follow a vegan diet, a vegan lifestyle. So I kind of want to run some well-being slash just health related workshops at the Bartlett. Even though I'm working at a firm, I think this will be really beneficial. So actually, I'm just telling you guys this to hold myself accountable that I'm actually going to do this. These will be themes on, you know, like well-being, mental health, having meditation, healthy living, meal prepping, having difficult conversations with people, and just kind of like bettering yourself as a person, like self-improvement ones. I don't know if people are interested in these workshops, so I hope that, you know, if you watch my videos, you would come and social support for me. But these are still in the works, so hopefully later on I'll post more details in the description box below. And I'm just holding myself accountable. Now that I said it in a video, I have to do it. So yeah. So overall, I think I had a really positive experience at the Bartlett, I would say, which I think really heavily depends on who your tutors are, which unit you are in, and the people in your unit, which is why it's so subjective about the experience you have in the Bartlett, and it's what you make the most out of it. Are you stepping out of your comfort zone? Are you meeting new people? Are you building a good relationship with your tutors? Are you building a routine that allows you to work the best you can and enjoy your projects fully and not rushing to the last moment? These are all questions that you have to ask yourself when you enter a school, an architecture school, actually any other school where you know it's going to be a high pressure environment. I am really truly grateful for the experience I've had in the Bartlett because it really opened up a new realm of architecture to me, what architecture could be, and I found my new passion for hand drawing and also design. I will always remember my time there just because of all the amazing people I met and the good experiences I've had there, and just made me realize who I am as a person, how I function, how I work, what my passions are, what my values are, and just some really great memories I've made there. So thank you all so much for joining me on this journey that I've had at the Bartlett for the final year. All of your amazing words of support, and to be honest, I am so happy that I get to meet some of you on the streets around the UCL campus. I'm here all the time, so say hi if you see me on the streets. I'm really happy to see you guys. And let's see where life takes me next, and I hope you're happy to stay on board with this journey with me, and I'm happy to share it with you all. Thank you for watching. Bye!